everyone. All right, so on this episode, we're going to talk about component properties in Figma. And this is going to be assuming that you already know how to create components in Figma, specifically master components, because you're going to see me use a master component to do this. All right, so let's just jump right in. I want to talk to the structure of a button. So in this example, I'm using a button as the component that I'm basically adding properties to. So if I open up this layers panel a little bit, or just look over here, we can see that the button actually is structured a specific way. So, and this is good to know because how you name layers, how you structure the component, how you're thinking ahead on how this component's going to be used, how it might scale in the future, what other elements could potentially be added to it. Every variation of a button that you can think of, you want to build that onto the master component. That way you can cater to different instances, different use cases, and not have to build new instances of the component just to cater to those different use cases. So the more you can think ahead, the better. The more specific you can get with the naming conventions, the better, because those are going to actually tie back into your properties naming conventions too. So if we go here, obviously this is just a button component. It's a master. You can see that the period is in front of it. But inside the button is a icon start, and this is how I name my stuff. There's a text layer. Sometimes this is wrapped in an auto layout frame. It's up to you, depending on what you want to do. And then there's an icon end. Now, within the icon containers, these are actual containers specifically for these icons. These are fixed widths and heights, and then this is just the container for the icon to live inside. So within that container, you have the actual instance of an icon from an icon library. So in this case, I'm pulling from these two right here. Pretend this is my icon library. And then I'm grabbing an instance of the helmet. And then on the icon end, I'm grabbing an instance of the icon or the chevron down. These are separate components. They're not component instances. It's not a group of components. So something like these fruits right here, where you have a group of components and they're all within the same container, it's very different than singled out elements like this that sit by themselves. This allows you to kind of see what other icons are available to you. Opposed to this, this is a little bit more nested, and I'll show you the difference. But fast forward, we'll go into, okay, so this is my button. I've already structured it the way I need it to be. I've named my layers accordingly, and I'm gonna create an instance of that. So let me get rid of this just so I don't confuse anybody. All right, I'm gonna create an instance of it. I'm gonna recomponentize it. So I'm gonna hit the component icon, and then I'm gonna create a variant of that. And just so I know that this gets published, I'm gonna remove that period because this won't get published. This will. And then usually what I do is, because I'm building properties against this master component, I want to make sure everything's kind of registering. So I usually just take out an instance of that component and I test it as I'm going through. So I'm going to go ahead and add some properties here. This is just so I know what I'm looking at. So I've got usually a resting and a hover, and then I can target the hover component, maybe make that a different color. Okay, so now my hover and resting states are there. These are just variants of the master. Now, the properties live at the master level, so I'm not going to touch any of the children or these instances and add properties to these or do any kind of weird stuff here. That's not where this lives. It lives at the master level. That way you don't have to make changes or updates. If you need an extra icon or any kind of property you can think of, a menu maybe, for example, you don't do that over and over and over again. You do it at the master level, and then all the children will inherit that change. So in this instance, I want to be able to have my designers be able to toggle on and off these icons. Maybe you don't need one, maybe you need both, maybe you don't need either. Maybe you're dealing with, something like this, where you just want maybe just one icon, and it's just a button with a single icon. This will give you that flexibility. So we want to make sure that we're clicking on the outer container of the icon itself. You don't want to click on the actual icon instance. You want to actually click on the container so that this whole thing disappears and reappears. So if I click on that and go over to the right panel, under the appearance section, you're going to see the instance or the property icon. You're going to click it, and you don't see anything here now because there's no properties that live on the master. So I'm going to create one right now, and then this is just going to be obviously a property. This is where the naming convention comes in handy because it's just going to append or prepend show icon start, which is what I named it, to true, so it's visible, and I'm going to create that property. Now, in order to test it, make sure everything's registering, I'm going to click once, and that's going to give me my variance, hover and resting. And then I'm going to double click to get into that master where all the properties live. And I can see that my icon toggle is living and breathing just fine. Now, to extend that capability, now I want to be able to say, okay, well, if you want the icon there, great. But what if I don't want this icon specifically? What if I want a different icon? So right now, I don't have the ability to click on here. I just have the ability to hide and show it, right? So that's not too flexible. I want to be able to toggle that icon out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click in my icon start, go down to the actual icon instance, and I'm going to make that a property. And I'm going to go over to the right where it's actually pulling from that library. So I can see it's pulling helmet. And I want to say, okay, well, I want to make that an instance. So I'm going to create a swap property. I'm going to click that icon again. I usually call this something relevant to what you're doing. So if I called it icon start, I can just do dash icon. So icon start dash icon is usually the way I do it. There's other ways to do it. This is just my preference. It makes more sense to me. And then I can create that property. Now, if I go back to my instance of the component, double click, I can see now I can show the icon. And Figma is smart. It knows that when it's actually false, when it's not showing, then the icon swap is not relevant anymore. If I toggle it on, obviously now I can go fish out different things from different libraries. In this case, I can take it, I can swap it out for another chevron, for example, or just go back to helmet. Or what I can do is I got this fruits variant here, which is just a couple variations of fruit inside a component set. They're not instances of their own. They're part of a family. But because they're components, I can swap them out as well. So I can say, well, I want these fruits in here, but that's the wrong fruit. Maybe I want cherries. This is where it gets to be, you have to kind of drill in to change it. So I won't see it actually at the master level. So I can toggle it off and on, go fetch from other components that live here. But I can't swap between cherries and apples just from this inspector panel alone. I actually have to go into this icon instance, and I'm clicking on fruits, and then that's going to give me the ability to toggle between apples and cherries. So there are instances in Figma where you're going to see things at the higher level. Then you drill in at the property level, which is the master level. And then depending how this was built and structured, you might even have to go into instances of components and see if there's any variants that you can swap out. This is all up to the designer authoring this and educating the rest of the team on how it was built. And that's kind of why we have, documentation. If you go into this filter panel right here, description, this is where kind of you can start to explain those things, where things live, how you do it, stuff like that, and even link back to the component. Okay, so that's how you create properties in Figma. Just kind of copy and repeat that over and over again, and we'll get more advanced as we go. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. More to come.